Welcome to In It to Win It. This is Steve Barton, and thank you for tuning in. We are here for Monday market moves, what happened last week in the markets, and what we expect for next week. All right, some quick news. The Federal Reserve continues to pause rates, but Jerome Powell came out a little dovish and said they plan on lowering rates 3 times next year. That doesn't actually mean that they'll do it. Remember, they all sit in a room for days and come up with the exact wording for that statement that Jerome Powell came up with. And we know this from the book of Danielle DiMartino Booth, Fed Up. Okay, so let's start out, as always, with the S&P 500. All right, still climbing higher. We are approaching all-time highs here. I guess we were wrong a third week in a row. This is the Fed statement. It just shot up. Getting kind of lost in the clouds here in the technicals. I mean, it's way overbought, but it just continues to defy gravity and climb higher. The dollar did the exact opposite. It shot down with the announcement of the Fed, so the dollar is getting slightly weaker. Looking like the dollar is actually going to kind of pop to the upside here. Getting pretty oversold in on the technicals here, so we see upside in the dollar next week. Gold essentially kind of started the week here and then went up slightly for the week. We had a heck of a jump right here on the Fed meeting, but is getting a little low in stochastic. We could see gold kind of grinding sideways here. There is a bit of a technical, let me pull this up right here. We'll run a retracement. And you can see that it blew through it, but we're kind of hitting in the retracement right now. So, you know, we could see gold moving between 2020 and 2045, something like that next week. All right, buy of the week was Franco-Nevada. We placed a bunch of orders in here. We caught it at 107 and then again down here around 103 or 104. We also got awarded with a little dividend here, which I think is a tiny bit of the sell-off because they had to pay for it. But we believe that fair value for Franco-Nevada is up in this range here, so it's still a good deal if you weren't able to get some last week. Gold Royalty Corporation put in a limit order and it hit at $1.39. We have another one way down here at $1.20. Maybe that'll hit or not. And in another account, we got one here at $1.40. So hopefully it hits, looking like it's kind of starting to obey this 50 moving average. So hopefully that $1.40 will hit. Silver is, man, that had a heck of a jump on the Fed meeting. Silver's up quite a bit for the week. But we're also going to look at this, the 200 moving average, 200-day moving average. We got the 50-day moving average, which looks like it may be forming a golden cross. Is a little bit oversold here, but we could see a little bit of correction down here to the 200 moving average, maybe putting it around 23.75, something like that might be a neat entry point for silver. And leveraging that on SILJ, boy, there was a tick if you could catch it with the retracement. And let me go to the hourly here, and then you'll really see how well this worked out. So we ran the retracement here. This is 61.8. This is 50%, and it hit right on the hourly 200 moving average twice. Not a coincidence. It was a tick if you could catch it. Hopefully it'll come back down and correct, and then we can get into SILJ and leverage our bet even a little bit more on silver. But we do see downside in silver, so let's wait for this to correct a little bit and we'll maybe find an entry point. Ideally, we'd like to get it back down to like 8, and then that would be a really, really nice technical entry point. Copper, Dr. Copper. Don't see a whole lot here in the technicals. Let me go to the daily for you. There we go. Tapping on some resistance right around just below $4. Could see a little bit of correction, maybe back down to the 200 moving average. 50 moving average is starting to slope up. The 21 moving average is starting to cross over right here. Pretty bullish sign, but it is getting a little stretched here in the technicals. Leveraging that with COPX, also tapping on a little bit of resistance, getting pretty overbought in the technicals here. Would like to see this correct down. If we do get a correction in copper, which it looks like is probably more likely than not, this will correct down, might create an entry point for you guys. Arizona Metals. Rick said he's opening up to this company, so that's good news if you want his blessing. And we are, I don't see a whole heck of a lot here other than maybe like a limit order around $1.50 or so. That would kind of be approaching some really lows, and it would line up with some nice support back here from the formation of the company. All right, everyone's favorite here, uranium. It is up to $87 a pound. So last week at this time, it was 83. We're up $4 from this time last week. Super excited about that one. Moving on to SRUUF, the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust just continues to fly high, and we're going to, excuse me, pull up the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust website. We are trading at a discount to NAV still. No new purchases this week, but they really don't need to. We've secured 1/3 of the planet's demand of uranium per year sitting in a warehouse, unavailable to Edison, unavailable to Duke, unavailable to Constellation. You can't have it. It's our precious. It is ours. And so, yeah, loving uranium right now. It is just absolutely running. Also leveraging that on the miners. They've been slightly underperforming the metal itself, but we expect that to change. URA here, URA and URNM have been just kind of getting beat up a little bit, and we found out that the reason that is happening is because the Sprott is having to balance their books a little bit, and they're going to be paying dividends on URNM. And we got a dividend payment coming up, $1.751 per share. Pretty juicy dividend, not bad, especially if you were able to pick it up back here below $30. And yeah, looking forward to that. So for the next couple of weeks, expect this to correct a little bit, buy on weakness. It looks like the 50 moving average has been pretty well obeyed for the better part of the second half of the year. So maybe if you don't have any position in uranium and you're looking for one, this is the one to do it on, we believe. And buy on weakness, maybe when it touches down here on the 50 moving average. If we have some kind of liquidity crisis and washout, this will get a lot cheaper. But basically, we're going to want, you know, maybe do a starter position when it hits the 50 moving average and then slowly scale in. Uranium Energy Corporation, this was a tick if you could catch it on Wednesday with the Fed meeting. It shot down, also with some sellings by the ETFs. We were actually watching it at this time, and we almost fired, and we're like, I guess we should have. I don't know. Expect more volatility in this with this ETF selling, and maybe we'll get lucky and it'll correct back down. Uranium Royalty Corporation, still have our limit order in for $2.50. Actually debating putting in a limit order right around here, like $2.65. That would line up really nicely with this, with the handle of this cup and handle formation. And $2.50 may not happen unless we get a liquidity crisis, but it is getting fairly oversold here in the technicals. Yeah, if you don't have any position in this, you know, $2.65 might not be a bad entry point. Natural gas. Okay, had a little bit of a downturn for the week, basically almost even here. Actually, that might be just a tiny bit of a tick up, but underneath the 200 moving average. So that's not great, but what we do like about this right here is if we catch this tick right back here, that's a bit of a double bottom going back quite a ways. Low RSI, low MACD, low stochastic, and they're starting to turn up. So that is starting to look a little bullish for natural gas here. Unfortunately, we're underneath the 200-day moving average, and we're going to need to pounce through that, and then we'll see how natural gas warms up here. But yeah, kind of liking this pattern that it's like the 200 moving average is coming up and catching the price action. Our favorite natural gas company, Devon, they just paid a dividend here. Not a bad one. And good earnings report. Liking this a lot. We've got 3 entry points that you can see right here. Let me get rid of the volume here, and then you can see it a little bit better. There we go. And, so an entry point right around 43 doesn't look bad to me at all. We have a limit order down here at 42, just because we've already got some positions. Might get washed out, might not. If natural gas goes up, this is going to go up as well. But yeah, like a Devon a lot. Great dividend company, and should do well over the next 3 to 5 years. Crude oil. All right, crude oil up a tiny bit for the week, not a whole lot. Would like to see it come back down around 68 and kind of just hit all of this support right down here. Is low in RSI, low MACD, low stochastic, curving up, so we could see oil going up next week. Leveraging that on our favorite oil ETF, XLE, just tapped through the 200-day moving average and then tapped right on it to close the week at 84.30. We've got a limit order down here for $77. That's just kind of a throw in there just in case we get lucky. But oil's looking decent, but it is going to have to break through that 200-day moving average. Exxon, our favorite one. We were buying limit orders on the way down, collecting dividends along the way. If oil continues to move up, this should do quite well as well. This was Rick Rule's #1 pick as far as an oil stock beta play. His #2 pick was here, Chevron. A lot of buying opportunity here for several weeks right in this zone here. If you're a member of Silver Chartist, Steve Penny was pounding the table on this one. This is Rick Rule's #2 pick. Is getting a little high in the technicals here, so I don't really see an entry point as of right now. But maybe we get lucky and oil goes down to $68, which should bring Chevron back down here to around 143 or 142. If you want to get into that company, that might be an interesting limit order. Occidental was Rick's #3 pick, and yeah, I don't see anything in the charts here, but if you want a limit order right around there, 56, 55, if you get lucky, might be interesting. They just paid a dividend, which probably washed this out just a little bit. The dividends aren't nearly as nice on this company as they are on Chevron and Exxon, but it is a little more leveraged to the crude oil price. So if you think crude oil is going to go up, this one should do better than the others. Blackstone Minerals, our favorite oil royalty ETF, had a nice double bottom here. If we hadn't bought here, we would have bought here. We have one limited order down here for $15. Probably not going to happen. But if it does, then we will catch it. Just kind of grinding sideways. Don't really see anything to make us want to purchase here in this one. But a limit order down here around $16 or so would hit right along some really backed up support. Technicals are low. Yeah, looking a little oversold, and hopefully it gets back down to there and maybe you can snag a position. This one, I don't know that it has anything to do with anything, but this is the price of uranium versus a barrel of oil, and it is above 1 now, meaning a pound of uranium is worth more than a barrel of oil. I just think this chart is cool because sometimes it runs up like that. Don't know if this means anything, but I just like looking at it every week. Okay, coal. This is thermal coal. It had a little bit of a correction here. Closed the week at about 143. We're going to hopefully get this one down around like 125 or so, and then we'll start to debate some entries into coal. Met coal closed the week pretty much flat, 333. Matt Warder believes that this is probably going to correct down to 250, 200, somewhere in that range, and then we'll start looking at some met coal entries. Glencore, this is Rick's, it would be his #1 pick for his own portfolio. We did have a nice Fibonacci. This is the Fed meeting. You can thank Jerome Powell for that. but it hit right in a retracement right there, which was a tick if you could catch it. We were looking at it on Tuesday here, debating an entry, and decided that we're going to wait for a double bottom, which never came. It just shot right up. So we still have our limit orders in at 1050 and 950. Not sure if they'll hit, but it is getting a little stretched here in the technicals, not too stretched. But reversal bar to the downside on Friday, so we would expect this to correct back down. Might find an entry point around the 200 moving average here. We'll see. All right, moving on to listener questions. If you guys like us going over listener questions, would love to support the show. There's a little link down below for donate to PayPal if you feel so inclined. This one is from Darren. He wants to know about Fury. Got a little more information here during the week. Hitting right in a retracement here. I think an interesting entry point might be right around here, the 200 moving average, which also lines up really nicely here in this retracement zone. Some limit order between 40 cents and 44, I think would be interesting. And Tilebrick wants to know about Eris Metals. Okay, now when you see a chart that looks kind of like this on the daily, that means there's very little volume. And if we go here to their financials, we can see that they only have a $15 million market cap, and that's in Canadian. So that's probably 11 in US. So limit orders only, actually limit orders for all of these except for these last two here, because the market caps are pretty small. As far as an entry here, maybe about where we are now, and then another limit order right around 13 cents or so, which would line up pretty nicely with some back support. Actually, come to think of it, RSI and MACD is pretty high. I don't think I would put in a limit order right now. It shot up, must have been on some company news. So this could be the new bottom. But you know, if gold corrects a little bit, this should come down, and yeah, but I think I like a limit order back here around like 13. Maybe put your first one in at 17 and then the next one down around 13, something like that. Okay, Fortitude Gold. This one's interesting. All right, let me go out to the weekly here. This is a Nevada gold miner, and pretty new. They actually pay some dividends here. And now it is getting a little stretched in the technicals here, so would like to see it correct down just a little bit, Antonio. I don't know if their dividends are sustainable here. When we look at, they just started paying them. We'd like to see closely held here by, you know, we like to see some big money. Think of this blue mark as big money, and think of this orange here as us retail, right? So we like to see some you know, some big money holdings here. And if we look at the dividends, pretty amazing dividends. 2021 was 4.6%. Last year was 8.7. But the payout ratio here is getting kind of high. Basically what this means is that, you know, of all their profits, 78% of that went back to shareholders. I'm not sure how sustainable that is, but you know, if you know something fundamentally about this company and you believe it is, then go for it. But would like to see it come back down here, maybe around $6 might be your first limit order, and then another one down here around like 580 might be a second one, because that lines up pretty well with some back support back there. And then the next level of support we got is around $5.50. But, you know, they pay, I think it's 4 cents a month, which equates to about 48 cents a year. Well, exactly 48 cents a year. So interesting company. This might be one to ask Rick or maybe Peter Granich about if he knows him. All right, SMR, this is new scale power. So small modular reactors. These guys are doing it. They're furthest along in the permitting process. I don't know anything fundamentally about the company other than what I just said, which isn't a whole lot. Had a bad earnings call, so they went down. Probably going to be a while before they're actually able to put anything out, you know, as far as a small modular reactor. They got to jump through all the hoops of permitting. Maybe a purchase around this trend line here, or somewhere where it would hit along this 200, I'm sorry, along this 20 moving average. It is getting a little stretched in the technicals here, so would like to see it correct back down. Maybe you get lucky and it goes back down to this previous low of around 190. But yeah, it's getting a little stretched in the technicals here. I don't see an entry right now. Maybe the first entry might be around the 21. I suppose you could argue that it did move above the 50 moving average, which it hasn't yet, actually gapped up. You could argue that it is kind of getting scooped up by that. But other than that, it looks a little stretched to me. I'd like to see it correct back down just a little bit. All right, and Learn wants to know about Adriatic. Shot up here. Thank you, Jerome Powell. Is quite a bit of support right back here around $3. So maybe that's your first limit order. And then you might get lucky and check this little tick out here and check that one as well. And that's around what, $1.85, something like that. But little stretched in the technicals here, kind of middle of the road RSI, middle of the road MACD, but stochastic's pretty high. So, you know, want to see this correct down slightly before we make any kind of position. All right, Dorian. Okay, this is one where you don't have to worry about limit orders if you don't want to. Big market cap. Liquefied natural, liquefied petroleum gas. Yeah, don't really see anything. I mean, this was a tick. If you could catch it, got down around 36. What is that move? Just in the last, like, what is that, 4 days? 15%, something like that. That's pretty impressive. So I'm not sure what happened there. But, you know, maybe a correction. Looks like it's obeying the 50 moving average for quite a while here. Maybe a correction down to 37, 38, something like that. And hopefully it holds the 50 moving average. Yeah, still a little stretched in the technicals here. MACD is starting to slope up, but yeah, we want to see a little bit of a correction here before we make an entry point. And then Champion Iron, Scar Surfing wants to know. Interesting here. Had a heck of a run up, good earnings call, and then they paid a dividend shortly after that. It's kind of rare to see it move up when they pay a dividend, but I think the earnings call was good enough that it didn't matter. Blew through the 200-day moving average and is kind of ground out sideways here. And yeah, okay, so the technicals down here don't look fantastic. It looks like it's actually going down a little bit, but sometimes when they gap up like this, that's the new floor. So this part right here is the new floor, the new support. You know, if you want to get into this one, maybe a limit order around where it is now. I got to say, we do have a golden cross right here, the 50 moving across the above the 200-day moving average. You know, maybe a limit order there, a limit order where it'll likely hit the 50 moving average, 650 or so, and then another one down here around 575. Which will bounce along the 200 moving average. But we want to see these technicals correct down just a little bit here, Scar, before we back up the truck, as they say. All right, then moving on to some of the random ones. I labeled these ones miscellaneous. We got Bitcoin. Looks like it's carving out a little bit sideways here. Closed the week at almost 42,000. BHP, one of Rick's favorite as far as a beta play in General Metals. Like this one a lot. You know, we want to wait for some weakness here. We are getting here though a golden cross, but the technicals are pretty stretched. We don't want to chase green candles here. Would like to see this one correct back down. We got a dividend coming up here pretty soon, so hopefully that'll drive the share price down and we can make another entry. You know, stink bids here are like 55 bucks. And then I think a realistic one is probably down here somewhere around the 50 moving average, maybe around 59, 60 bucks. Sprout Physical Platinum and Palladium Trust. We had a limit order in here for $9 and it got down to $9.07. So we missed it. This is Jerome Powell's meeting. The dollar got weaker, so it took more of those dollars to buy the same bar of platinum and palladium. Technicals are pretty stretched. We'd like to see this correct back down. eventually, when something happens with South Africa, Zimbabwe, or Russia, or we hit a worldwide recession, this is going to go down or up to the upside. You're not going to catch it. You're going to want to be in this beforehand, but we don't see a technical entry into this at all. I suppose you can't go too much by the technicals on this fund. They do trade at a premium and discount all the time, so it doesn't follow the commodity exactly. But it's a fairly decent proxy, and but we are getting pretty stretched. Would like to see that correct back down. Is tapping on some resistance right here around $10.25. All right, and the bond bet, TLT, continues to go up. We just moved above the 200-day moving average. We could see this correcting down, way stretched in the technicals here. RSI is way high, MACD is way high. Stochastic is like, it goes to 100 and it's at like 98. So we could see this correcting down a little bit, but we believe that this $83 down here is the bottom. So hopefully we get a correction in this. Maybe we can catch it on the 50 moving average. We shall see. All right, and as always, we just got to say that the 4-week treasuries are still paying north of 5%, so keep your cash rolling over. Hopefully you got at least a 20 or 25% position in cash, because if we get a liquidity crisis, all of this stuff is going on sale, and we are going to want to double down. Thank you very much for watching. Support the show. Donate with the links down below. If you want TradingView, you can try it out for 30 days for free. We love this software. It's amazing. It is way better than the one that we had before. Like you guys can see, we can look at the financials, we can look at dividends, we can look at the market cap. It's all in one place. You don't have to have another window open on your computer to take a look at it. Love that software. And if you didn't see Rick Rule's interview a couple days ago, make sure you check that one out. Thank you very much for tuning in. You have yourself a great rest of the day. Support the show, hit the like and subscribe, and share this with anyone that you think needs to hear it. It's probably your buddy that can't stop talking about tech stocks. Have yourself a great rest of the day, and we will talk to you next time.